On behalf of all the sage yogis, we request Mr. Rajesh Shah to welcome Shree Mataji and Sir CP. On behalf of all the sage yogis of the world, I request Mr. Antonio to present offerings.
हमको तुम दिल को तोड़ गए, क्या भूल हुई हमसे, तुम हमको छोड़ गए। जब याद वो दिन आते हैं, आँखों से आंसू बहते हैं। जब याद वो दिन आते हैं, आँखों से आंसू बहते हैं। कब आएंगे वो दिन, कब आएंगे वो दिन, तुम हमको छोड़ गए। आती है याद हमें, आती है याद हमें, तुम दिल को तोड़ गए, क्या भूल हुई हमसे, जो हमको छोड़ गए। है प्रार्थना भारत माँ से, ऐसे ही भेजे लाल। है प्रार्थना भारत माँ से, ऐसे ही भेजे लाल। जो देश भक्ति में उठ जाए, जो देश भक्ति में उठ जाए, देश के लुटेरे मिट जाए। जो देश भक्ति में मिट जाए, देश के लुटेरे मिट जाए। आती है याद हमें, आती है याद हमें, तुम दिल को तोड़ गए, क्या भूल हुई हमसे, तुम हमको छोड़ गए, क्या भूल हुई हमसे, तुम हमको छोड़ गए, तुम हमको छोड़ गए, तुम हमको छोड़ गए। मुगल सराय गांव में जन्मे साहसी लाल बहादुर। ओ मुगल सराय गांव में जन्मे साहसी लाल बहादुर। लाल बहुत हुए दुनिया में पर एक थे लाल बहादुर। ओ लाल बहुत हुए दुनिया में पर एक थे लाल बहादुर। वीर तपस्वी सच्चे बहादुर भारत माँ के लाल थे। वीर तपस्वी सच्चे बहादुर पार करते लाल ईमानदार थे। ओ गंगा लहर के पार करते लाल ईमानदार थे।
Divine Mother, Sir C.P. Sahib, most respected Sir C.P. Sahib, members of the family, brothers and sisters in Sajid. It is a unique privilege for me to be able to welcome you both over here on this occasion of felicitating Sir C.P. Sahib on the release of this book at the holy hands of Shree Mataji. This book, which is about, as those who would have understood the Hindi song that just preceded this, a book about one of the greatest Indians of this century, a person who had dedicated his life completely to the country, given every sacrifice that was possible, and a person who led his life always in truth. The book that Sir C.P. Sahib has written in such a wonderful, clear manner, which I had a chance yesterday to read half of it because I was coming back from Europe this morning and I could read at least half of it. And I was so impressed by the way it has been written about this great man who took over the most difficult and most challenging situations facing our country, and for nearly 2 years was the Prime Minister and the leader of the country at a most difficult time when India had grave economic problems. We were threatened by two very powerful, militarily very powerful neighbors, and had not that many friends in the world. You will no doubt read the book, and we will no doubt hear much more about this person, Lal Bahadur Shastri, who is leader of our country. But today, for the benefit of my brothers and sisters here in Sajid, I would like to talk about somebody else. I'd like to talk about this tall, elegant, very kindly gentleman that we often see, who is there giving us support, and often when he speaks, giving us great inspiration and hope, and talking to us in such a clear manner about the path that our Divine Mother Shree Mataji has shown to us. So I would like to, with your permission, speak about Dr. Sir C.P. Srivastava, KCMG, Padma Bhushan, Grand Cross of the Polar Star is given to him by the King of Sweden, knighted by the King and Queen of Spain, given all the highest orders from the governments of Germany, of Peru, of Colombia, of France, and the list can go on. As I said, it's a very unique position to be able to talk at a time when a book is written about a very great person, but also to be able to speak in the presence of very great persons. So something of the life of Dr. Sir C.P. Srivastava. He was born in 1920, born in the most populous state of our country, in Uttar Pradesh, and born to a wealthy landowning family. Unfortunately, both his parents passed away when he was very young, perhaps around the age of 8. And since that time, was brought up by relatives. And as could have happened, many of the privileges that could have been there when your parents are there were not there. So from a very young age, Sir C.P. Sahib faced a lot of difficulties and recognized that he had to work very hard. He went to university in Lucknow, obtained scholarships, not only got a first class in both his Bachelor's of Arts and in Master of Arts, but came first in the university, winning gold medals in English literature and political science. So he had a brilliant academic record, entirely with his own steam, his own motivation, one which any person anywhere in the world would be proud of. And at that time, which was by that time coming close to the time of our independence, so C.P. Sahib entered for the examinations for our administrative service. The Indian Administrative Service and the Indian Foreign Service are the two most privileged services, or you have to be extremely able, intelligent, and committed to be admitted into these services. Even today, perhaps 100 people are taken when 20,000 or 50,000 apply for these services. And at that time, Sir C.P. Sahib, as you can well expect, came at the top of his examinations and was to be selected for the more privileged of the two services, which is the Indian Foreign Service. And I have this from good authority, that Shree Mataji then suggested to him that you should be here in India and you should stay and work for the Indian Administrative Service. There's not much point in going out for the Foreign Service. And as a young officer, Sir C.P. Sahib did all the duties that one is supposed to do as a young Indian Administrative Service officer, which is to be posted out, perhaps to remote places, to act as the Chief Justice Officer, as the one who has to maintain the revenues. And each of these assignments he carried out with the greatest of distinction. As you will see in the book, he served with Lal Bahadur Shastri in the central government when Mr. Shastri was a cabinet minister. And then Sir C.P. took on the responsibility and became the youngest ever managing director of a government-owned company, the Shipping Corporation of India, a small company at that time, and to have been pushed ahead, to be made to grow, because we wanted that our country must grow in the field of shipping. And in very few years, at that time, and later when he came back as chairman and managing director of Shipping Corporation, he made shipping corporations grow so rapidly to become such a dynamic organization, such a profitable organization, that it gave truth to that ideal that government-owned companies can not only prosper, but they can grow and they can be companies which the whole nation can be proud of. Throughout this period of the administrative service, Sir C.P. Sahib has been known for his complete and total integrity, his dedication to his work, his decision making. All of these great virtues in a bureaucrat. Today we look for those, we yearn for those in those who are running our country today. But here we have an ideal person who was in the bureaucracy and who could function over there, always acting in what he felt was for the good of the country. I have some stories which I've been hearing at times about how And this happens in our country, it happens in other countries, where people might have tried to say, here's a small present, please keep it. And it is with politeness, but with tremendous resolve, that nobody can say that in any way they could do anything that would ever influence Sir C.P. Sahib. And this is the hallmark of a true administrator. We know that he lived in London for 16 years as Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization. This is one of the bodies of the United Nations dedicated to the law of the seas, to shipping safety, and several other maritime matters. In that period, Sir C.P. Sahib had a term of 4 years, and every 4 years he would be elected and re-elected unanimously by all the member states. When he started, there were perhaps around 50 states that were members. By the time he left, there were more than 130 states that were members of this organization. And he left, he created a unique organization in which the motto was trust, harmony, and an ideal for commitment to one world. All these could be what our Divine Mother has also been showing us the path and making into an actuality in Sarjog, in the spiritual sense. Here we have Sir C.P. Sahib doing it in the international arena with member states, doing it in a practical way. More than 20 conventions were held under his chairmanship, and all of them unanimously, where you see today, even in every body of the United Nations, or in any parliament, or in any government, we see people always disputing with each other. Here, unanimously, every resolution is passed, because he has those great skills to bring differing points of view together, to make them understand the higher goal and lead them towards that in a practical way. I'm sure many of those which you must have imbibed in your years of working with Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri, and more than that, in the complete enveloping presence of our Shree Mataji. So C.P. Sahib works, or at that time, for more than 16 hours a day. As Shree Mataji has said, he would go very early in the morning, and it wouldn't be before very late in the night that he'd come home. There was no Monday to Friday job. It was a 7 days a week job, 365 days a year job, year after year after year, decade after decade. I asked, when did you have holidays together? What holidays? So, no holidays. No time for anything but his work. So I did, perhaps with some impertinence, ask Sir C.P. Sahib once that wasn't this a little hard on the family? I mean, it's all very well to work so hard, but if we try to do that, we hear a lot that, you're spending too much time in the office, you're spending too much time in other things, but how did you not think this was hard on the family? And he said something very profound, something which is a lesson to all of us. He said that my inspiration, and I quote him, my inspiration is my wife. Her great sense of patriotism, her transparent purity, and her directive in a way that you don't worry about anything else. Do not worry about the home, do not worry about how it is going to be run. You have to serve the country. That is what you can best do. You go out and work, don't worry about anything else. And I think that must have been such a great support, such a great inspiration. So I could go on and on. And you have heard so much, because wherever you have been, you have shone. You have shone in the whole world. And we are very proud that you are amongst us here. But I think there is one lesson for all of us. Shree Mataji, you have sometimes said to us that you require a special intelligence, perhaps a privileged intelligence, to be a Sahaja Yogi, to understand Sahaja Yoga. Yes, perhaps, and also a desire. But more than that, I think now, it is so obvious that Sahaja Yoga is the only path for this world. And for us the lesson is that you have Sir C.P. Sahib, who in this lifetime has been the life partner of our Divine Mother, and in whatever he does, in whatever he has done, in whatever he will do, he has just done it magnificently, better than anybody else, almost effortlessly. And this is the lesson for us, that if we have even the smallest fraction of the blessings of our Divine Mother, we too will go ahead in every way, in every sphere, as we are already doing. I would like to end my remarks today by quoting the British minister who, at the time of felicitating Sir C.P. Srivastava on his getting the knighthood from the Queen of England, he said the following things, which I would like to, with your permission, read out. He said, "It is my privilege to have come to know a person like Dr. Sir C.P. Srivastava. Here is an ideal administrator, an ideal chief executive who made his organizations grow rapidly, profitably. An ideal internationalist with innate Indian wisdom who succeeded in demonstrating that nations of the world, despite their sharp political differences, can cooperate with one another on specific multilateral issues for the greater good of mankind." And then he goes on to say that Dr. Sir C.P. Srivastava is a living legend. Today I, on behalf of all my brothers and sisters here, we offer homage to this living legend who has been such a source of support to Sahaja Yoga and to Sahaja Yogis for the last 25 years, who has allowed it to grow, who has allowed our Divine Mother to be with us so much. And so to you, sir, we say with one voice that may you enjoy excellent health for long, long, long years to come, and may you in everything that you do, with the blessings of our Divine Mother, always be successful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now I would request Mr. Yogi Mahajan to come and express his feelings.
Your Holiness, our most beloved Mother, Your Honor, Sir C.P. Srivastava, Aradhana ji, Gautam ji, Sadhana ji and Ramal ji, we're very happy that you joined us, and Kalpana ji, who was also there, that you came and joined the family on this occasion. It really fills our heart. Some people are born great, and others achieve greatness. But what the world calls as greatness is a myth. It is a greatness of conquest or the greatness of politicians outmaneuvering their adversaries. But through the divine knowledge of Sahaja Yoga, Shree Mataji has given us the gift of discretion where we can discern between greatness and folly, between those who have stood on the pedestal of ego and glittered and outshone, but within they have been hollow. And it is this very greatness which is the subject of this monumental book on Lal Bahadur Shastri. We have had in this age some very great men in the true sense of Sahaj Yoga, like Abraham Lincoln, like Anwar Sadat. In Egypt, in this Turkey, we had Ataturk Kamal Pasha. In India, we had Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Mahatma Gandhi, and late Lal Bahadur Shastri. I would like to also add Honorable Sir C.P. Srivastava. The life of these great men has not been easy. It has been a very great struggle. But when we study their lives, we wonder what was the inspiration? What spurred them on? Was it ambition? Was it ego? Through that, they could have achieved some height, but very soon faded in the pages of history. As all these great conquerors who came and went were soon forgotten. They left no mark behind. But we today still remember the great realized souls who were great men, because they charted the evolution of mankind through very difficult phases. It was the spirit within that was the source of their inspiration. And in all these crises, it was the spirit which sustained them. What was their outstanding qualities which we reckon them by? That they had vibrations, that their personality had balance, and that they performed in a holistic way, in a balance, to uphold dharma and for the evolution of mankind during their tenure. They did not go to any extremes or lopsidedness, because wherever that has happened, it has created imbalance. Through Sahaj Yoga, we have understood this, which otherwise is a very difficult thing to understand, because human beings are very quickly enamored by any kind of logo, any kind of ism, any kind of belief, which becomes like a intellectual catch. And then everybody says that we should do this or we should do that. But in Sahaj Yoga, these politicians have understood what is the balance. And with the grace of Shree Mataji, they have been able to overcome all these difficulties. In today's context, we have to understand how politics and Sahaj Yoga are related. For most people, when we say the word politics, they think it's a dirty game. But it is not the game that is dirty, it is the people that are dirty. Because we've reached the lowest ebb of our morality in this Kali Yuga. And therefore, the caliber of such people who are coming in the field of politics is low. And that is why they have spread dirt in politics. But if one realized soul stands up, then the vibrations can work out for the whole. It was one Mahatma Gandhi who could stand up against the mightiest empire in the world. And through him, the rest of the country stood up and we got our freedom. Without the use of any arms, without the use of any force, without the use of any muscle power. So this itself proves that the divine power can work through realized souls and bring prosperity, bring welfare, bring happiness. It is not the expansion of an empire that is greatness. It is the dharmic, the happiness and the welfare of people that is the question. So we had one Gandhi, and I would have thought that after that there was nobody, because immediately as India got its freedom, everybody took a U-turn for materialism, and forgotten were the sacrifices of the great heroes of India who sacrificed so much for this country. But then, when we read the book of Shri Bahadur Shastri, it heartened us, yes, one Gandhi was able to put his mantle on one Bahadur Shastri. As a child, I was only 14 years old when I first met Shri Bahadur Shastri, and he was coming for a family function, and we as children were very excited. We were decorating the driveway and waiting for a fanfare of a motorade and a limousine to come. And as I was walking towards the gate, a very ordinary white ambassador car rolled in, and a very petite man stepped out and gave me the sweetest smile, like a small innocent Shri Ganesha standing there. And I just spontaneously received him and escorted him in. And when the function was over, I was very disappointed because the Prime Minister never came. And then my father laughed and said, "Who do you think you escorted in?" And that was Shri Bahadur Shastri. But his sweetness was so endearing that there was not a moment to think of who he was. That sweetness just engulfed us, and we just kept following him around. And it is that humility which was his most outstanding feature. That humility, as you know, is the quality of Shri Ganesha, which gives wisdom. And it is that wisdom which acts and which leads us on. It is not very big speeches, oration, rhetorics that charters these great things. It is this innate wisdom that slowly and silently worked, as in the life of Bahadur Shastri. I will not talk so much about him because it's all there in the book. But I would like to add that the life of Honorable Sir C.P. Srivastava itself is so outstanding that now we have to write a book on him. I'm not saying all this just to praise him, but because we have observed him so very closely, and we have found that his sense of honesty, uprightness never changes in any situation. Even if it's sometimes to our advantage to tell a little lie, he would not do so. And sometimes we have even been afraid that maybe he will report us to the Inspector General of Police. So this quality has stood the test of time. People who think that to be politicians you have to tell lies and you have to do all these things, to be a great man in today's world you have to do all these things. I would have believed it if I had not seen him. And so maybe the era of Bahadur Shastri is over, but the legend Sir C.P. Srivastava lives on.
Bogdan Shekovich from Russia to come and express his feelings.
Puja Shree Mataji, most respected CCP, members of the family, brothers and sisters. So much has been said here, and so much is already been, so much is known about CCP. We're not talking about our mother, but about CCP. So much is known. One thing that I'm not sure many are familiar with is his sense of humour, his uprightness, his pristine honesty that everyone knows, but his sense of humour, I'm not sure, maybe his nearest family knows and others. I think that should also be mentioned. It's a unique book that one great son of India has written about another great son of India. But when CCP has talked about it and other aspects of Lal Bahadur Shastri's life, I'm not sure if it comes across that CCP loved Shri Lal Bahadur Shastriji very much. I'm not sure that he knows that when he talks to us about him, that this comes across also, his great love for that great man. We didn't know him, we were from the West, but somehow he became ours. He became a living image within us when CCP talked about this great man with such great respect and such great love. I would like just to mention a story that CCP has said once in Russia, and you may forgive if the facts are not absolutely there, but the gist of it, I hope, will be there. In fact, it was the time, I'm not sure if it's in the revised version of the book, though. President Kosygin, who most of you will have heard about in the Brezhnev era, was known as a very intelligent and a politician, a great technocrat. He was one of the few in the Politburo, about 10 of them, who ruled Soviet Russia. And he was probably the only one who wasn't scared at the time of a vote just to rubber stamp the will of Mr. Brezhnev, but if he thought that there was something wrong with the decisions, he would be the only one who would put up his hand and say no, which was a very dangerous move in those days. But he was also, it appears, an upstanding man. When Shri Lal Bahadur Shastriji came and was accompanied by CCP Srivastavaji once to Russia, the President Kosygin met with the Russian delegation, met the Indian delegation, and it became apparent that although all the protocol was observed, there was not that sense of warmth and that had been present in the time of Jawaharlal Nehruji. And after some time it became apparent that this was because the communists of India had mentioned that unlike Shri Jawaharlal Nehruji, Mr. Shastriji was not a friend of the Soviet Union, or was sort of going away from the camp of the Soviet Union. So when this in some way became known, both delegations, or parts of both delegations, went to the Bolshoi Ballet, and Shri Lal Bahadur Shastriji called Mr. Kosygin over and said, let's have a talk, just one-on-one. And after some time, CCP mentions that he came back a changed man. This Mr. Kasigan was shining and was looking at Bahadur Shastriji in a different way. In fact, after that, he became like his younger brother and even deferred to Bahadur Shastriji's vegetarian tastes. He would also eat just vegetarian food, which is, may I add, a big sacrifice for Russians. But it was the great respect that he held of Bahadur Shastriji that even in this way he tried to make the Indian Prime Minister comfortable. And so CP asked, what did you tell him at the Bolshoi Ballet? Asked Mr. Shastriji. And he said, you know, I just told him I'm neither particularly for the Americans, and I'm not particularly for the Russians, but I am for my own people. These are people who cannot even put 2 full meals in their stomachs a day. I must make sure that they at least get that. And that's why his agrarian reforms went through, rather than the Soviet line, which is the great steel mills and the industrialization, which Jawaharlal Nehruji may have favoured. So, in this simple way, with this sweetness, Mr. Kasigan was absolutely won over and became, in fact, like a younger brother to this great son of India. I hope that is more or less the gist of it. It was a very moving story, and it brought up in stature this petite man with this giant spirit of Bahadur Shastriji, and also made me respect and have hope in people in the Russian system as well. I would very much like to thank the CP for according so much I don't know what the word is, care, protection for our mother for all these long years. Accorded her the lovely care, the respect that I would say I don't know, a husbandly figure can accord, and also a fatherly figure to this great family of his, and has enabled us, has given us the chance in this lifetime to have contact, to make contact with the Mother of Mothers. Thank you, sir.
Now I would request Chris from Australia, please come and express his feelings.
Her Holiness Shree Mataji, Sir C.P. Srivastava, members of the family, brothers and sisters in Sahaja Yoga. I must admit to a feeling of overwhelming humility at being asked to speak today before such an august audience. a common man from a far-flung land such as myself maybe can present the common man's view of Lal Bahadur Shastri. As has been said before, the book contains quite aptly the description of what can only be described as a Mahatma, a great soul. If I can borrow the words of Martin Luther King, who said, when he travels the world, he goes as a statesman or as a civil rights activist. But when he comes to India, he comes as a pilgrim. And we do likewise. We come as pilgrims to a land that produces men such as Lal Bahadur Shastri. When you read his book, one can scarce believe that in flesh and blood such a person existed. A man of total integrity, of deep humanity, of overriding humility. That such a man can exist and can succeed is almost beyond comprehension. The title of the book says it all, A Life of Truth in Politics. Coming from the West, such a term seems incongruous. Politics in our country is anything but truth. When we read the book of Lal Bahadur Shastri and Sir C.P.'s description of him, I found myself thinking that this was also a description of Sir C.P., that from his own pen, in a way he was describing some of his own qualities. I've only respectfully observed him from a distance, but all the qualities embodied by Lal Bahadur Shastri I see personified in flesh and blood before us, the Sir C.P. Shri. There is a saying in the West that the lion is unmasked by the marks of its claws. The rise of Sir C.P. Srivastava, a man of integrity, to become the leader of India, with Sir Shri Srivastava by his side, was surely the work of Shree Mataji, who brought this man to lead his country in a time of terrible crisis, who enabled this man to show his goodness to the world, who gave India a great statesman and the world a great leader. Lal Bahadur Shastri is an inspiration to us all as human beings, that truth can prevail. In my own country, Australia, there is a saying that if you wish to understand the actions of a politician, you need to understand his three motivating forces. First, a politician is motivated by self-interest. Second, he's motivated by the interests of his family and friends. And third, his interests are party politics. The good of humanity, the good of his country, the good of his fellow citizens do not even figure on this list. And in my country, I found this to be absolutely true. But in Lal Bahadur Shastri, we see the reverse. The interests of his fellow citizens, of his country, of his fellow man, are his prime concern. And for me, as a Sahaj Yogi, it is an inspiration that truth can win out. In our own countries, we can all become Lal Bahadur Shastris and transform them through truth, through the power Shree Mataji has given us. We only need to look at South Africa. Many of us thought years ago that the aspirations of the indigenous people could only result in war, distress, violence. Only when Sahaj Yoga became established in that country did events take a different turn. The leadership of South Africa changed, Mandela was released, an unreversible chain of events was brought about, which brought peace and transformation to a country which many seemed impossible. This happened because Sahaj Yoga was established, because Dharma was brought to South Africa. So before us all, I see many potential Lal Shastris who can go out and with the work of Sahaj Yoga transform this world. Before us we have our Divine Mother who started Sahaj Yoga. We also have Sir C.P. Srivastava, who is the father of Sahaj Yoga. Thank you.
I would request Mr. Nigel from UK to come and express his feelings.
Her Holiness Shree Mataji, Sir C.P., family, and brothers and sisters. Yogiji has forbidden me to dance or sing, so I'm afraid this is going to be quite short. I am perhaps an unusual choice to talk about this launch of this book. For despite having a grandfather and a father who are eminent politicians on 2 continents, I've never had any interest in politics. It's hard to dance in the House of Commons or the Houses of Parliament. In addition, in the West, and particularly in the UK, it seems that the modern trend is to produce biographies of politicians or other eminent people purely for the sake of exposing them to gain better sales, for the sake of an ego. And having known, loved and respected Sir C.P. since my rebirth, I know he could never do that. But it was with some caution that I opened this book, perhaps expecting maybe the story of a good man, but a man with faults, but a man who loved his country, but a man who was not all that he might be. But thus was my conditioning. In actual fact, his faults were relegated by the author to almost 2 sentences. He was 5'2" tall. To me, that's not such a problem if you're 5'3". It may be a problem if the fence around the cricket ground is 5'4" and you're trying to look over. But it's not so bad. Imagine my surprise then when I opened the book to start reading and discovered that this is not a biography. It's certainly not the biography of a man, however great. It's a biography of Dharma. And the more I read the book and got further into it, the more I discovered that the author himself was intimately acquainted with this concept, this power of Dharma himself. And if I may continue, the theme of what we learn from a book of this sort, there are several factors which certainly spring out of the pages. Firstly, Dharma is eternal. All through the ages there is a strain of persons who incorporate Dharma, who are Dharma. It may change from period to period, but it is still that innate quality which is a base human statement. Lal Bahadur Shastri was obviously Dharma. In the West, in modern times, it's becoming increasingly hard to find this quality in politicians especially, but those who purport to be leaders of our society. It's hard to think, for instance, in England of any modern day personage who fits that bill. So it can serve as an inspiration to us all when a book such as this gives us the clues to what we should be looking for. I think it's indicative that whereas in the West we can quite easily define nirvichara as samadhi, thoughtless awareness, sahaja yoga, spontaneous union with the divine, it is hard to encapsulate the word Dharma in all its forms, because there is so much that is in it that we cannot touch. The second thing I think that comes from the book that we can learn from in the West is that Dharma has no consideration of rank. It does not have to spring from any particular source. It can come from anywhere. Anybody can be Dharma. Lal Bahadur Shastri was from relatively humble beginnings. But even at an early age, at the age of 6, he was showing this sort of quality, this intangible, this source of goodness. In the West again, we find that we expect those who are high-born or those who are moneyed to automatically be dharmic. And all of a sudden we're surprised when they're exposed as not really being that dharmic at all. Not being anywhere near. But yet, we can perhaps overlook a source which may be innocent, which may be humble, which may be lowborn, and dismiss it because we're looking for something which is a myth. So perhaps in the West we might take a lesson and look for more 5 2 inch people. If you see what I mean. The third thing is that Dharma is power. It transcends everything. It outlives the base. We remember Dharma forever. In whatever form we meet it. And when we're lucky enough to meet it, as when we meet someone like CP, or when we read a book about somebody like Lal Bahadur Shastri, then we remember forever the power of this quality. And it gives us something to search for, something to seek, to touch, something to become. And really that's what Sahaja Yoga is about, the elevation of the human being. In England there is a saying, I'm afraid it's rather vulgar, but I think it sums up the situation in this instance quite well. It takes one to know one. From the first second one starts reading the book, one realizes that this is a sign of Dharma talking about a sign of Dharma. So, on this august occasion, I'd like to thank CP for having removed a very large conditioning in my mind about the quality of biographies of great people. Perhaps my sin is that I have not found or looked diligently enough for the right kind of people to read about. I shall redress that immediately. And perhaps if there is a greater honor than living a life of Dharma in this way, it must be to have someone of Dharma write a book as beautiful as this one. Thank you, Shri.
Now I'll request Paul Ellis from America to come and express his feelings.
Flower on your head. Just put it up a little.
Holy Mother, Sir C.P. Shrivastava, honored members of the family, brothers and sisters, truly it's a great honor and a great privilege to be here this day for this occasion and to be asked to say a few words on this auspicious and wonderful day. And after all that's been said, it's hard to know what can be added to the wonderful, the profound words of those who have already spoken. I'm especially pleased to be here because I had the great privilege to be with Sir C.P. for a couple of the days when he was doing the research on this book, and I was quite moved and quite honored to be with him at that time and to see the way in which he approached this work, the great care and the great dedication, and the importance with which he approached this work. So much has been said now about Lal Bahadur Shastri today. And I know that we all in the weeks to come, in the days to come, will read this book if we haven't already and see the greatness of this man. But we know now from what we have heard this morning about the very high moral code that he held to his entire life, that he was committed to the oneness of religions, that he approached politics with the highest integrity, the highest sense of discipline, and the importance of his own conduct, and that he was dedicated to recognizing the spiritual equality in all human beings, as demonstrated by the great respect and great dignity that he accorded to any man, to any person, regardless of their station. And we know now how he approached his life fully dedicated to the cause of reestablishing India as a land of prosperity,
as a land of spirituality, as a land of harmony. All of these were his great qualities. And those are qualities that are ever so more important today than they were then, as we see the course that the world has taken and is taken. Now, I was born in America. Some might therefore think I'm an American, but as Saj Yogis we know differently. But I have a certain perspective from being brought up in that environment, that situation. And we know about America that it was a land that was founded on such great principles, founded on the ideal of equality, of justice, of liberty. The government of America was one intended to be of, by, and for the people. It was a great experiment, a great attempt to create a society which was free of the aristocracy, free of the hereditary monarchy that was the prevalent form of government at that time. And since that point, many nations have followed suit in one way or another to a certain degree. Yet we see that the great vision of what America could be has gone on. That it's a country which has lost its moral compass in some way. A country which is in desperate need of reestablishing the high ideals on which it was founded. And to that end, we can see that the teachings and the philosophy of Lal Bahadur Shastri are of such great significance, are so important in that endeavor, in that work. We see in America a country where the leaders of the country have completely lost the respect of the people. The U.S. Congress has maybe 25% of the people have respect for their elected leaders. And the rest have no respect, and they see no value for Congress. They see no value for their elected leaders. And this is truly a tragic situation, because the leaders of the country should be the greatest examples, and they should be looked up to and respected. But in America, we see the American people, they see their leaders in the grips of money. They see that money is what drives the political machine, not their will as the voters. And they see their elected representatives cavorting around with those with money, and they see that they have no role as the ordinary people, as the citizens of the U.S. They see they have no role in that process. And it's not just the political system in America that we see troubles in right now. We see a society where there's a breakdown of the values, a breakdown of family structures. In all different ways, we see that this is a society which needs to be transformed. There's a change, a subtle change that has to come about for us to grow and to be back on a course of the ascent of the nation. And it is for this that the philosophy of Lal Bahadur Shastri is so significant. For the politicians, it's a recognition that public service means service. That the life of a public servant is a life of sacrifice. It's not a way to to go into office and to come out wealthy. And we can look at Lal Bahadur Shastri and see that example. A man who came from poverty, and at the time of his death, having spent a life in public service and risen to the highest office in his land, he was still a man without property, without wealth. But the vision and the importance of Shastri is not just for the politicians of America, but for all the people. Because though the title of the book is A Life of Truth and Politics, it could just as well be a life of truth. The words, the philosophy of Lal Bahadur Shastri are significant to every one of us, to every human being. That's because the underlying message of his life and the underlying message that Sir C.P. Srivastava has expressed in this great work is that self-realization and transformation is the answer to the path that the world is on now. That if there is going to be a change in the course that America or any other country is taking, it's going to be that each human being has this experience of self-realization. They recognize their own spiritual qualities. They establish that recognition of the spirit within themselves. And from that is the source of growth within themselves and their society and their government in all spheres. And this, of course, is the great message that has been brought to us by our mother, Shree Mataji Nirmala Devi. The message of self-transformation, of spiritual growth. Now this book, this great work, I truly feel could not have been written by anyone other than Sir C.P. Srivastava. Because truly the great moral code that is expressed of Lal Bahadur Shastri is indistinguishable from that of Sir C.P. Srivastava. Rajesh Shah has explained so eloquently the great life and the great work of Sir C.P. Srivastava, and told us how his was a life dedicated to the cause of India, dedicated to establishing peace and harmony among the nations, dedicated to truth. You know, I had occasion, as I said, for just a couple of days to see Sir C.P. Srivastava as he researched this book. And I was so struck by the attention and the dedication with which he approached this. Qualities that we don't see so much now. But that he was so focused on the significance and the importance of this work for India, for the whole world. And he was singly devoted to this project for that time. And I know over the many days, weeks, months, years that he has been engaged in this project, his attention has been fully focused on this. Because this is such a significant work for India, for America, for the whole world, for each one of us, to recognize the great message of this man, Lal Bahadur Shastri. To recognize what significance he has for each of us in our life. and to recognize that the message of his life, of self-realization as the only force that can change the world, that can transform this world, it's something that we need to recognize. Sir C.P. Srivastava, we all here, the whole world owes you a debt of gratitude for bringing the great vision of Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri to light, and presenting it in this way. On behalf of all of us here, our children and generations to come, on behalf of the whole world, we thank you and we commend you for this great achievement.
Now I request Dr. Varnov from Russia to come and express his feelings.
Dear Holiness Shree Mataji, dear Srivastava, Sir Srivastava, brothers and sisters, we all glad to be here in this festival, in this presentation book of our friend Sir Srivastava. I'm very sorry that I haven't possibility speak brilliant Hindi. И perhaps I ask Sir Bogdan or Mrs. Tatiana Grekova translate into English. Русско-индийские отношения имеют очень большое значение для всего мира, для мира во всем мире. И поэтому книга, которая освещает крупные события неотдаленного прошлого, очень важна.
Russo-Indian relationships are extremely important in the scheme of the world, and therefore this book has a great importance in relation to this.
Петровская академия наук и искусств, как я думаю, будет рада перевести эту книгу, которая послужит дальнейшему укреплению и дружбе между нашими странами.
The Petrovsky Academy is prepared to translate this book, which it's felt will in the future be a great help to the friendship between the two nations.
Россия в эти дни переживает такие же трудные времена, как Индия в 1964 и последующем после смерти Джавахарлала Неру, которого я имел честь дважды видеть.
Russia is now experiencing great trials and misfortunes, as did India after 1964, at the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, whom Professor Voronov had the honor of meeting twice.
Премьер-министр Индии Шастри и премьер-министр России, тогда Советского Союза, господин Косыгин, приложили много усилий для сохранения мира, для урегулирования отношений между Пакистаном и Индией.
Prime Minister Kosygin and Lal Bahadur Shastri at that time gave a lot of their energy to improve the relationships between Pakistan and India.
Мы хорошо знаем большую роль сэра Шривастава, пожалуй, одного из немногих живых свидетелей этих крупных исторических событий.
We all know Sir C.P. Srivastava, who is one of the unique witnesses of some of the greatest events that have happened in the world.
Я знаю, что выйдет следующая книга сэра Шриваставы о выдающихся государственных деятелей нашего времени, непосредственным свидетелем которых был сэр Шривастава. Он был свидетелем этих важных событий.
Sir C.P. was one of the greatest witnesses of these events in which he had an active participation. And apparently there is a second, a future book in which Sir C.P. Is going to write about some of the most important and prominent members, figures in world events.
Я с удовольствием дарю сэру Шриваставу одну из лучших статей о Косыгине.
I would wish to present to Sir C.P. One of the better articles on Mr. Kosygin.
И с удовольствием вручу в Кабеле. Сэр Шривастава получил орден Отечественной войны, орден, который можно передавать с напоминанием, что бы не было войн между странами. А сегодня я ему вручу медаль.
Previously in Kabela, it was my pleasure to give Sir C.P. One of the great orders. It is actually a military order, and it was given so that there would be no more wars in the world. And presently, Professor Voronov would like to give this to Sir C.P. Srivastava.
May I request our beloved, most respected, the great son of India, Sir C.P. Srivastava, to come and express his feelings.
Shree Mataji, dear Sahajogis and Sahajoginis, for me it's a very moving day, very moving moment, and if you find me stopping from time to time to regain my emotions, I hope you'll kindly forgive me. I want to begin by sharing with you a secret, a well-kept secret for a long time. And the secret is the 3rd of December, which is the day today, is by far the most important date in my annual calendar. Have you guessed it? You have. It was on this date, 48 years ago, in 1946, that I first came face to face with this divinity. That was the day of my transformation. That was the day when a divine veil enveloped my being. From then on, a divine force emanating from the source that you know has been constantly with me, helping me, guiding me. And that is the secret for whatever you may have heard today. After 3rd December, I did not lose much time, and I'm sure you'll agree I shouldn't have. We got engaged on the 18th of February 1947, and we got married on the 7th of April 1947. And then events began to move very rapidly. Events which might have seemed impossible in normal circumstances. Within a matter of months, as Rajesh mentioned to you, I was selected for both of India's top cadres, services, the diplomatic service and the administrative service. I first joined the diplomatic service. And when I was offered the Indian administrative service also, there was a lot of debate in office, my friends saying, some say, lovely to become an ambassador, and some saying, no, join the home service. So I came home that evening and I mentioned to my wife, and she didn't take even a moment to make a decision. She said, no, ambassador, no. Let's remain within the country. Let's serve our country here. And that was the decision which eventually led to what we are doing today. It was as important as that, and I'll explain to you why. Because I changed my service from diplomatic to home civil service, called administrative service, and my first posting was to Lucknow. And the first VIP in Lucknow that I met was Shri Bahadur Shastri. She had foreseen, she knew what was coming. I didn't. I only obeyed. I said, yes, you want IAS? Okay. And for those who have read the book or will read the book will read about this, but I'll tell you about two instances. When I went to him first, I'd been given an appointment at 6 p.m. on a summer day in Lucknow. I reached his house on time. My habit is to be on time or a little before that. And I saw that the minister's car was ready one of the doors was open and he was obviously about to go somewhere, although he had an appointment with me. Of course, I knew that in India's political affairs, appointments with ministers don't mean very much. You can go and you can be asked to come again and again. But here was something different. Now what happened was, there was one person ahead of me who had come, and the personal assistant told both of us, sorry, the minister is going to a meeting, cabinet meeting, so you have to come again. I said, okay, I'll do that. And as I was saying this, I was some distance from the door of the house, and I saw a petite figure, 5 feet 2 inches, as you now know, coming out dressed in spotlessly clean khadi, dhoti, kurta and cap, with a smile on his face. He first went to the person who had come ahead of me, talked to him very politely. He was a common man, and I was watching. I had come from Delhi, civil servant, bureaucrat. I said, he's a minister talking to this man who looks so ordinary, with such attention. I said, there must be something wrong somewhere. Anyway, he talked to him for a moment, then that gentleman went away. And then the PA came and whispered into his ear something about me. I didn't know what he said. Obviously, he must have said, this is the new city magistrate, IAS officer who has just come. He has come to meet you, but I've told him already to go away because there was no time today. Now, normally he would have gotten into the car and gone away, but not Mr. Shastri. What he did was, he looked at me and moved a few paces towards me. Now, ordinarily, I should have been wise. I should have moved ahead, wished him. But I knew that he was in a hurry and I did not want to impose myself on him. So I stood back where I was. Then he moved another 5-10 paces, came nearer me. Then he did what no minister on earth, not in India, would ever do. He raised both his hands to say this to me, Namaste, Aiye. I was aghast, minister to a junior civil servant saying Namaste. It doesn't happen in my country. Anyway, so I said, no sir, you are busy, you are going away, you have a meeting. I understand, I'll come again. He said, no, it doesn't matter. We can talk for 2 minutes. I'm telling you because there's a secret to that. So he insisted that I should go inside his house. I went with him, sat down, and he asked, have you got a house? Are you well settled? Is your family all right? I said, I came to ask for instructions about some official matters. He said, yes, it's an important city and you know the problems, and your district magistrate will tell you. But are you happy? I said, I'm very happy, sir. I have no other questions to ask. I got up, I said, I don't want to detain you. And we came out together. Then he moved towards his car, and this time I was a little cleverer. So when he moved, I did that simultaneously with him. He stood first, I did Namaste. I had learned a lesson, but I'll tell you, not yet fully. I was a bureaucrat, but I had begun to improve because of her. So I said, okay. Then when he sat down in the car and as it moved away, he again wished me, I wished him, and he went away. And then, my dear friend, I just stood there wondering what kind of a human being he is. Such an important cabinet minister, such humility. Is there something in me? Why should he be so kind to me? Then I said, no, because he was very kind to the other fellow also. So it's not me, it's him. Anyway, I thought for some time. Before going, he said, have you a transport? I said, I have. Then he went away. And after 8 months of that, he said, please come again. I said, well, I will. But after 8 months of that, I was transferred from Lucknow to Meerut, and I never met him because there was no reason. And then something else happens, and that is the second incident I'll tell you. 2 years after that, I was still in Meerut. In the meantime, he had resigned from UP, Lucknow. He had gone to the center. He had become a central cabinet minister for railways and transport. He had become a national figure, a very eminent national figure. I had gone to Delhi railway station to receive my wife and my two daughters who were sitting here, Kalpana and Sadhana. They were coming from Nagpur, the little kids at that time. So I went to the railway station and the train steamed in. They arrived, I received my wife and my daughters. A lot of crowd there. But on the other side of the platform, I saw a lot of railway officials in their uniform waiting for someone. And I didn't know what it was. Another train steamed in, and from one of the compartments came out Shri Bahadur Shastri. And the distance between me and him was as from here to say that row. So I held on to my children and my wife said, let's stay here because there's a lot of crowd, let them go away, then we'll move. So I stayed like that. And there is Mr. Bahadur Shastri, surrounded by big officials, general managers and so on. And suddenly, after moving about 5 paces, he looked in my direction. So he looked in my direction, I looked at him, and I still to learn more. I just stood still. I said, how can I go to him? 2 years ago, 2 minutes conversation, he must have forgotten me. So he moved another 10, 20, 50 paces, 30 paces, and looked again. So when you look again in my direction, I look this way, I look that way. I said, who is he searching? Then he moved a few paces again, but since he found that I was doing nothing, he left the group, came about 10 paces. My wife is a witness, she was there. He did this to me, said, Namaste Shrivastava Sahab, you did not recognize me, I am Lal Bahadur. I just didn't know what to do. I was lost for words. I just fumbled. I wish the earth had taken me in. I was so ashamed. And then he said, I said, well, the whole country recognizes you, but how did you recognize me? Oh, he said, remember 2 years ago when you came to Lucknow, we met, and I know now you are in Meerut. How are you? Everything all right? I said, yes, I am fine. I was absolutely stunned. And then he went back to his group and went away. That was the most important lesson that I learned, humility. It was not the humility that you see when someone meets a prime minister, you're very humble. No. When he meets a junior official, then he is humble. And that was a very great quality. I once put this to a very senior civil servant in India when he had become prime minister or after he had passed away. I said, people say that he was very, very respectful to civil servants. And the answer, I got was, Mr. Shastri was respectful to every human being. What a wonderful quality is. I'm not aware of any individual, in politics at least, about whom truthfully you can say that he is respectful to every human being. Well, that was her decision that I should go to IAS, Indian Administrative Service, led me to this contact. And then when he became Prime Minister, I served with him when he was Transport Minister. But when he became Prime Minister, then again my wife played a very, very major role. I was in London attending a conference, shipping conference, when Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru passed away and he became Prime Minister. I returned to Bombay, and my wife said almost immediately, he said, he trusts you, he has confidence in you. You go to him, offer your services. A new Prime Minister needs support, needs help. You go immediately, meet him, offer your services. And I said, how can I do that? It's not done. I'm a civil servant, and the code of civil servants says that you don't go and seek jobs. You're given jobs and you do them. I said, he knows me. If he wants me, he'll ask for me. But again, like the earlier occasion, she knew what she was telling me. She knew the future. She was foreseeing the future. So she said, okay, there'll be other ways. I'll have my way. I didn't understand what other way there could be. Well, next day came a message from Delhi saying a meeting has been convened by my ministry, shipping ministry, a very important meeting, please come along. I had to go to Delhi. Now when I went to Delhi, I knew that he was not well. He had had a mild heart attack. He was in bed. And my understanding with him earlier was that whenever I came to Delhi, I must let him know and I must meet him. I said, now if I don't meet him, that will be sheer arrogance on my part. Because he is ill, it is my duty to go and ask how he is, just pay my respects. Now, who created this situation? Well, then what happens? I went to his house, there were two PAs standing. Oh, they knew me, they knew my connection, so they could not be rude to me. I said, he's unwell, I know. He may be in bed, I know. Doctors may have told you not to admit visitors, but I just want you to go and tell him that I'm here, I've come to pay my respects. And if he wishes to see me for a moment, I will, otherwise I'll go away. And the PAs thought that very soon they'll come back to tell me, go away, he doesn't want to see you, or it's not possible. Well, very soon they came back saying, please come in. So I went in. But before I went in, they said, mark you 1 minute, 60 seconds, and no more. And before 60 seconds are out, you should be out. I said, yes, sir. He said, sure. I went in. He was lying in bed, smiling. I wished him. He said, I'm feeling better. I'm almost all right. And then I didn't know what to say. So I just said I came to offer my felicitations, congratulations, and to wish you well, have a speedy recovery. Full stop. Nothing more. I didn't offer my services because I was a civil servant, mind you. So the PAs were apprehensive about me. They thought I might come. And a man like me is not always, anyway. So they were worried, standing there, both of them, looking at me, and I was looking at my watch. When it was 50 seconds, I did this to him. He'll be able to leave him. Then what he does is, he says, no. You sit down, and he told PS, will you please withdraw? And the PS very surprised. He said, what's this going on now? And then a beautiful conversation. He said, you like Bombay, I know, because I was posted in Bombay. I said, yes, sir. He said, how long do you intend to be there? Oh, you're leading to something. I said, you are the Prime Minister, I'll be there as long as you want me to be there. I'm a government official. Didn't still come to the point. Then he said, I think you should now come here and help me. And all I said was, yes, sir. And that was it. So she had her way, in her own way. And So I joined him, and probably in public affairs and public life, there has been no greater honor, no greater privilege than to have had the opportunity of serving Shri Bahadur Shastri. And I'm grateful to her for having given me that opportunity. The book is there. I don't think I'll take you too much into it. What I would say is, as time passed, we became close. His views were known to me. He was truly wedded to dharma, to righteousness, to truth, to morals. There was no posture in him. There was no dichotomy. There wasn't a Mr. Shastri inside different from a Mr. Shastri outside. He was absolutely one. One inside, one outside. Beautiful inside, beautiful outside. It was marvelous to work with him. It was very hard work. He gave everything that he had to country, and if you were close to him, you gave everything. Not because he forced you, but because you loved the country and you loved him. And we worked very closely together. Midnight, 1 o'clock, and it was that kind of thing. But during that time, our family also came very close to him. You will find photographs in the book which will show that. But whenever my wife and I went, we never went uninvited, we were always invited. And when Mr. Shastri invited us to dinner, he would say, would you like to eat a little worse food than you are normally accustomed to? That was his humility. Because he was a vegetarian, I am a non-vegetarian. So we would go and eat food. It was very, very kind. And then he would talk to her during dinner time, not to me, but to me he talked to her all the time, otherwise. But then he would talk, as the book says, of saints and sages, of economics, of politics, various subjects. And he had understood what she was. And he had understood that if I was anything by way of help to him, it was because of her. And so he gave her tremendous respect, which you give to a holy person, which you give to your mother. He would come out of his bedroom or drawing room, out to the outer area, then go to the car, open the door of the car for her to sit down, Prime Minister of India. That was the respect that he gave her. And he gave tremendous love to my family, my children. I remember last night he invited his children and my children only to Mussoorie for one night out. And in the hotel where we were staying, at 11 o'clock he comes to see whether my children have proper blankets or not. Prime Minister of India. That was his humility. That was true, genuine humility. Anyway, we worked together and we faced many situations. He faced many situations. But when I joined him, when should I stop? Now or a little later? When I joined him, I said, sir, what are my duties? What should I do? He said, you do whatever you used to do previously as my private secretary. And then he said something which is very interesting. He said, the job of Prime Minister of India is very difficult. Let us try. Mark, let us try. If we succeed, well and good. If I fail, I'll resign and go. See the difference? If it is success, it's we. He shares success. If we succeed, well and good. If I fail, in failure, he wants all the blame for himself. I listened to that and I remember those words. And then we began to work together. Many crises came, but he was totally unruffled, always firmly on the path of truth, righteousness. There was food shortage, food prices rising, language problems, all kinds of things. And he stood very firmly. And then came a war. Now, I want to tell you, he was the most peaceful man you can imagine. Embodiment of peace. He wanted peace with Pakistan. You know what he did? The day he assumed office, in his first message he said, Mr. Pakistan, we must live together as peaceful neighbors. Peace. Then later, within a few months, he sent a message to Ayub Khan saying he wants to come and meet him. Ayub did not invite him. He said, I am going to Cairo. On returning, I will come to Karachi if you allow me. I want to meet you. How could Ayub say no? He invited. Ayub also was a very good man. And they met. But there was a clique somewhere in Pakistan which was assessing, judging him. And since he was a short-statured man, dhoti, kurta, smiling, they thought, this is a weak prime minister. That's the time to attack India, take away Kashmir. They didn't know him. They didn't know his true stature. And he repeatedly told them, he said, you know, Pakistanis are our brothers. They're our kith and kin. We don't have to fight with them. Why should we? No quarrel at all. Let's live peacefully. But they, while he was talking of peace, they hatched a war, which is explained in the book, and they attacked. And when they attacked India, then this man of peace stood up like a colossus. He said, no, I'm a peaceful man, but I'm a man of honor. It is my duty as Prime Minister to defend the country. But he told armed forces, you must attack, but in a very measured way. We don't want people of Pakistan to be killed. We don't want bombing in East Pakistan. They're our people. We must destroy the machinery which is threatening us. We don't want to destroy people. So he was a very wise man, brave, stood up. He ordered. He said, no, we march to Lahore. How can they attack us? How can they take our territory? We must attack, but attack not with a view to killing people. Attack with a view to destroying the machinery. Pakistan had pattern tanks and saber jets. That should be destroyed. And because he was a holy man, he was pure. Small gnat of India, small aircraft destroyed saber jets up in aerial battle. And eventually what he wanted was done. But when war was ended, came the question of peace. Now, there again, the Russians invited Kosygin, he invited Mr. Shastri and Mr. Ayub, and he went there. He said, yes, we don't want to have war all the time, let's have peace, proper peace. And after 2 or 3 days of talks, he transformed Ayub as you are transformed. If you look at the book, look at the photographs, you will see Ayub first, a gruff man, huge, tall, angry. Within 5 days, is a picture of meekness. Who did that? Shastri. He transformed him. And who gave that power from behind? Power of transformation. I was in touch with her, telling her things are not moving. She said, don't worry, things will move. And here is transformation. Are you an adversary of yesterday, a friend of today? Have you known many examples of that kind? That is the power of truth. That is the power of dharma, as Nigel was saying. Very powerful. You cannot resist it. The man changed. He said, sir, we must have mutual contact, a hotline. I will install one in my house, you install in yours. We must live as friends, not as warriors. That was a very big achievement. Transformation. The Russian professor, Dr. Verna, was talking about Kosygin. When Shastriji went to Russia, people had conveyed the message, he is not a leftist. He is probably a centrist or a rightist. You know how extreme people are. When he went there, everything was nice, but not quite very effusive. So, one evening, when we had all gone to see ballet, Shastri was not too keen on that. He was worried about his talks. So he went to Kosygin. He said, at interval, can we have talk, the two of us? He said, yes, why? And by that time, Kosygin was nice, polite, but just that. And they sat at some distance together. And he talked to them. And I was watching from a distance, I was not listening. After about half an hour, 40 minutes, they came back, and Mr. Kosygin was a changed man, transformed, again transformed by Shastri. I was wondering, what magic is this? After the ballet, when we went back to the dacha, I said, what did you do? What happened? He said, very simple. I told Kosygin, I'm a simple Indian. I'm not a communist, I'm not a capitalist, I'm not a leftist, I'm not a rightist. I'm an Indian. And as an Indian, I love my people. I can't see my people hungry. If food is not there, I cannot eat my food. Therefore, agriculture must be given very high priority. At least people must have enough to eat before you have huge plants. Now, if that is being rightist or leftist, so be it. I love my people. I want food for them, basic necessities for them, and that is my priority. And Kosygin said, I agree with you 100%. You are a real communist in one way. When he did say that, we must have felt. But what is a communist? I mean, anyone who is interested in the welfare of everybody, true. He said, we are fully with you. And then he said, foreign policy. I am a friend of Russia, I respect Russia, and I will go all out to maintain. I want to tell you truthfully, I want to be a friend of the West also. Why should we quarrel? The world is one. The West, the East, the North and South, we must all come together. So I'm going to be friendly with everybody. And Kosikin said, by all means, go ahead, as long as you are not anti us. I said, no question of being anti. But why should we have quarrel with America or UK or Germany? Why not be friends with everybody? Kosikin was delighted. And he became not a friend, a disciple of Shastri from that moment. He used to touch the feet. So that was the person. He was a tremendous transformer in the likeness of this lady. When he passed away, I'll come straight to that. He achieved great success in Tashkent. Again, an agreement was signed, a real agreement between two warring nations to come to peace, to come together. If he had lived, there would have been no further war with Pakistan. Things would have been very different, as the book will show. But he passed away. And to me, that was the most tragic experience, most traumatic experience. Take a few minutes more to tell you. The day was last day was wonderful. Agreement was reached. Bhutto tried his best to destroy everything, but agreement was reached. Kosikin played a great part, very great part. Ayub played a very great part. Shastri played a very great part. See, Ayub wanted that something about Kashmir, some new machinery. And Shastri said, impossible. Kashmir is India, there's no question. And we can go on talking for 2,000 years, nothing. But if you want to live peace, I'm with you, totally. Anyway, agreement was signed, and one must pay tribute to Ayub, as much to Kosikin, as much to Shastri, three heroes. And we signed that. I was with him at 4 o'clock. I went from the villa in company with him. He had had a lunch that day with Ayub, and they had agreed mutually to remain friends, to talk to each other directly, to be good friends. Anyway, from villa, we went to sign this agreement at 4 o'clock. I sat by his side, came back. We were very happy because everything he wanted was done. Then we were back at about, when we were coming back in Tashkent, all the streets were lined with people, Shastri, waving, because agreement had been signed. He was so happy. He told me, I've had a breakthrough with Ayub. It will be a new world, new India, new Pakistan. Then we came to the house and he explained a little more. Then at 10:30 he said, he always used to call me Srivastava Sahab, never CP Srivastava, nothing. Just see, again, humility. He said, Srivastava Sahab, every day we have been going to sleep at about 1 o'clock. Let's sleep early today. I said, yes sir, we should. The next morning we are going to Kabul. It's very cold there. Kabul was very, very cold. We were planning to go there. So you must wear proper clothes. Look, the Prime Minister concerned with Tashkent conference worried about my clothes. He says, please wear proper clothes. It will be very cold there. I said, sir, yes, I'll do that, but I have to go for a conference now, press conference. He said, press conference at this time? I said, yes, where? I said, in a hotel about 10 miles away. He said, how will you go? I said, there's a car waiting for me. Oh, he said, it's very cold. Your car may not be good enough. No, I said, it's quite a good car. He said, no. He came out with me to the outer door of the villa, sent for the driver of his car, Prime Minister's special security car, said, you go in this car. Told the driver, take this person, stay there, bring him back. So this will be safe for you, protect you. How can you forget this? And then I sat in the car, he waved, smiling like that, and I went away. Attended the press conference and came back to my room. I was in another building, about 100 yards away. I came back there and suddenly the telephone rang and the PA there said, please come rushing. Prime Minister is very sick. Couldn't believe my ears. I left him hale, hearty, cheerful. I ran. I ran literally. I was the first to reach his bedroom. But by that time he was just about passing away, or he was dead. 1:32 a.m. I couldn't believe myself. I said, what is it? How can God do that? I left him hale and hearty, cheerful, smiling. Anyway, fate plays a role in everything. So he passed away. And after that moment, it came to me that I should write his biography. I came home and my wife said, you must write. This is a mission, the only mission I entrust to you. She told me, as Rajesh has said, everything in the world will be taken care of for you. You do your work. Don't worry about anything else. Or daughters, children, house, nothing. But this one is a mission to you. I said, okay, when I retire from public service, I will do that. And I was then still I was young at that time, 46, 45, many years of service. I served in India, then 20 years abroad. But the moment I retired, the first moment after retirement, I began writing. And then everyone has helped me. And I'm now concluding, but I want to thank you all for the enormous help that all of you collectively and so many individually have given to me in writing of this book. I will not be able to take all the names because it will take about 2 days, as there's so many of you. But I'll just report to you very briefly some instances of how Sahaj Yogis have helped me. You should know that. I wanted very much to get some confidential material about correspondence between Shastri ji and other countries. And here the rule is everything is confidential. I went to various government offices. No, it's confidential. Now you can't write a biography without some material. So I said, okay. I went to America. My wife said, maybe they are more open, there might be some papers there. So I went to America. First I went to Yale University, and Manoj and Gregoire and others helped me greatly to get material from there. And then I made another trip, probably the most useful of those trips. Then I went to a place called Austin in Texas. And I was literally supported from both sides by Paul Ellis on one side and Captain Mangal Singh from the other. They took me to the hotel, they prepared food for me from breakfast to dinner, they took me to the library, got material, immensely valuable material. And without that material, the book would not be half as valuable as it is today. Now, how can I forget that kindness? And Paul Ellis went on finding material even after I had left. I don't know how many envelopes I must have received from him. Kept them all safe. I should probably use them some other time. But enormous material was given to me. And I'm very happy that Paul is here. I hope he'll convey my thanks to Victoria also, and to Manoj and others. Then let's shift the scene to UK. I went to the British Library, huge, wonderful library. And I remember Ian Paradine sitting with me, collecting books for me, getting copies made, photocopies made. And I saw there the marvel of Sahaj Yoga. I wanted some photocopies of some pages of a book. The time was about 5 minutes left. And when he went to the counter, the gruff man at there said, oh, it's just 5 minutes left now, how can I deal with all this? And Ian Paradine didn't get angry, no. He said, yeah, I agree with you entirely, it's very tough. Try to do whatever you can. I'm sorry, we're very late. And then he started looking at one book, and Ian started helping him with the others. And suddenly the man was transformed. He said, don't worry, I'll do everything for you. I said, here's the Sahaj Yogi, doing this kind of thing. Then I used to go to Colindale Avenue Library, a newspaper library, British British Museum. Wonderful place. Books, newspapers for Pakistan, India, America. And I got lovely quotations which you will read in the book. And there John Glover, sitting with me all the time, helping. Even after I came away, he would go to the library, get material for me, send it on to me in India. Very grateful to him. Then in Shuri camp, where I wrote much of the book, Shuri camp because of her again, Derek Lee, professor, pouring at the text I would write, giving hours and hours of this. I can never be too thankful to him. And there's a guy there, and I'm very happy he has come. We used to sit together till early hours of the morning every day. He on his computer and me with the text. And go on and revise this and do it again. Never did he feel once that I was revising and re-revising, smiling always, pleasant, and he worked very hard for me. I'm most grateful to him and I'm happy that he is here. Dr. Spiro helping me with the medical question. Chris Marlowe, he read the book and he told me something which has been said today. He said, after reading the book, I felt that I should become a better man. It's a great tribute from a Sahaj Yogi for the book. And back in India, here also, same situation. There's Mr. P.C. Tandon sitting here who gave hours and hours and hours and months of his time for the book. I'm very grateful to Mr. Tandon for the most dedicated way in which he helped me. Dr. Chug, who is in America, who is not here, he must have brought me photocopies of innumerable books which I wanted. Mr. Sharma, who helped me with computerization. The squadron leader, R.K. Paul, who helped me with a lot of material. Now, in brief, what I want to tell you is, the book, please do not believe that the book is mine. The book is ours, yours and mine together. And yours and mine together, a book about dharma, about righteousness, truth, integrity, about a man who I think was the most moral politician this country has seen. Now, such a book can be dedicated only to a divine person. And I therefore come to the end of my words. I thank you all for the enormous honor you have done me. I would like to thank very much Rajesh, Yogi, Bogdan, Chris, Nigel, Paul Ellis, and Professor Varnov for the very, very kind words they said about me. I don't deserve that. It's not humility. They have been very, very generous and very kind. I think I have learned a great deal from Mr. Shastri, but the credit for whatever has come by can go only to one person who has given me divine envelope. The debt that I owe her is unfathomable. The debt that I owe her is unrepayable. The debt that I owe her, I do not want to repay, I want to remain indebted to her. All I want to do is to acknowledge that debt in your presence. And having done that, as a humble token, I want to dedicate this book to her.
इधर आ जाए तो अच्छा होगा ना। उधर सारी भीड़ हो गई, वो लोग बैठ नहीं पा रहे। After listening to all these beautiful things about Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, my heart is so full of gratitude to my husband that he accepted my desire that he should write a book about Lal Bahadur Shastri. The first day I saw him, I knew he was a very highly evolved soul. And to have such a person in the politics itself was a great vision for me. My father, mother sacrificed all their lives for the work of Mahatma Gandhi, of getting freedom. When I was with Mahatma Gandhi, he knew about Sahaja Yoga because he was also a realized soul. But he told me that just now we are not free people. We have to get our freedom. Otherwise we cannot talk about Sahaja Yoga. Of course, his bhajanavali he wrote according, if you read it, according to the different chakras. I knew I was a very patriotic person. I mean, whenever even I see now flag, my throat gets choked. With all these songs, I just couldn't bear it. I don't know, perhaps it reminds me of all the struggles people have gone through, or maybe the mess in which our country is today, or maybe my heartfelt love for my country. As you know, I am full of compassion. And Mr. Shastri was saying how I used to cry seeing people being starved and living in conditions which not even animals can manage. So when I saw Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, I felt now, after Gandhiji, here is a man. Normally you will be surprised. Most of these people, martyrs, even my father, mother, even Gandhiji, They never cared for politics. They never wanted to do anything with politics. They said, we don't want to do anything. But here he was a man who ventured himself into politics and who was a realized soul was a very big combination for me. And I could see the potential of this. If you ask me, I can't join politics. Shastri ji asked me several times, why don't you come to politics? I said, beyond me, I just can't. And most of them were so much detached. They didn't want to have election, they didn't want to do anything of that kind. I remember my father, when he came out of jail, Vallabhbhai Patel asked him that you have to contest the election. He said, I refuse, I don't want to go into politics. He said, you have to. And he forced him, ultimately sent somebody with some money, 3,000 rupees for my father. That for your advertising and all that. So my father said that for advertising, there's no need to send any money. If by that I am going to win, I don't want to win such an election. But that made him ready. He accepted the challenge and he really went for the election. And surprisingly, he was the only Christian member elected in that assembly, Central Assembly. And the one who was opposing him lost everything, lost his deposits, but his own daughter helped my father. And she said, Nirmala, what is my father? What does he think of himself fighting against your father? So in those days, you see, it was another atmosphere where people who sacrificed, who loved their country, who were genuine, were very much respected. When my father was in jail, I tell you, wherever we went, we were treated just like you are treated here, Sir Yogi is like. We all brothers and sisters were given all kinds of help from everyone. And they were very courageous people. They were politicians in a way because they were fighting for a cause. But they were not politicians who were running after any position or money. No, they never understood such things. It was beyond them. But they have no interest in joining this assembly or all these things. I looked at Shastriji, I said, now here is someone. I wanted someone to be like that. Because there were so many I knew who were very sacrificing, very detached, very honest, very dharmic. But somehow they didn't want to do anything with these assemblies and elections and all that. Shastriji was already in office when I saw him first. And I think he recognized me very well, no doubt about it. There are three incidents I remember. First of all, he showed tremendous respect for it, tremendous respect. I always used to go to the airport to receive him, always. Once I was not well, so I didn't go. So he was coming with all the cars and everything. Suddenly stopped in front of our building and walked up to our flat, all alone. Why didn't you come to the airport? Are you not well? I said, I'm all right, sir, but little unwell. No, every time you must come. So very sweet, so very sweet. Such small things he used to notice. Once his children told that we have seen Bhabiji, they call sister-in-law. She's in the town. He said, really, where is she? Find out. He knew about it. Find out where is she. They found out and he said, you have to be there for lunch. He told his wife, you make a particular type of, we call it moong ki goli. One day they had made, I ate it, so he remembered. See, all these little things, I'm surprised at him. And he would talk to me on subjects. I was just an ordinary housewife at that time. Subjects like economics. He would say, what are your priorities? You run your household very well. Your husband is so busy. What are your priorities? I said, the first priority that my children must get their food. First. Second, a house. Third, education. And the foremost is their character. They must have good character. And I really didn't start Sahaja Yoga till my daughters got married. Because that was also my responsibility. And it was needed also that much time. It all worked out in a Sahaja way, I should say. But Shastri also looked after my children very much. And he felt they were sacrificing so much because their father was never at home, he was always busy. He could understand me that I am a sensible woman and that I am dedicated to this country and that I feel very happy that my husband is doing the work of the country. He understood that. But still he used to feel for me. One day, I am very fond of music, but I had stopped going for music. I would not go without my husband. So one day I told him that somebody has come and I would like to hear that music. He said, all right. What time is the program? It's 9 o'clock. If you come, we'll be going. So at 9 o'clock, a little bit, I think he got disturbed, started looking at the watch. So Shastri asked him, what's the matter? What are you doing? What's the matter? He said, my wife had asked to go for a music program. It's 9 o'clock. Then get up, what are you doing? Come along. He brought him in his own car and dropped him there. He said, if she asks you once to go to this thing, what business you have got to sit down? He was so humane, mothering type of a person. Of course, my husband is a very hard-working man, and I can always take out his pressures when he comes home, so it was all right. But he was really very hard-working, and Shastriji was quite worried about him. So one day he got some temperature. Immediately he said, you are on leave, you are going to Simla. I have arranged everything, you go down there. Immediately. He forced him to go to Simla. I didn't know what to do with him because I have never lived with him on any holiday. That way, of course, Mr. Shrivastava is an extremely honest to a fault. But then, there in the holiday, we were playing chess or say Scrabbles or anything. He used to cheat me all the time. All the time he used to cheat me. I said, what is this going on? Here is such an honest man, he cheats me. This is allowed. If you can cheat your wife, it's allowed. Then we used to walk down, buy some cherries, you see. We both are very fond of cherries. So it's all right, we'll make half. So he would put much more in mine and less in his. I said, what is this cheating? Why are you taking so little? Because you like cherries, I say you also like cherries. So now exchange. So big fight on that. You see, a woman in the house has to be very sensible. She has to be caring, sensible. And also I must say my two daughters never troubled me because their father was not at home or anything. They really supported me very much. And I gave them all the company that was needed. But they never complained to me that why our daddy is not here, why our daddy doesn't come. In the school also, everybody's daddy used to be there, but their daddy used to be missing. But they never even thought of it. So it was such a help from everyone. Also, I had such a good childhood with my parents. They taught us how to be sacrificing. My father was in jail for years. My mother went to jail 5 times. And from huge big houses we were living in huts. But we used to enjoy everything. The feeling that whatever our parents are doing is for our country's freedom was so elevating, that we never even thought of little comforts that children ask for. We could sleep anywhere, eat anything, live anywhere. At that time also I found lots of great people who were my father's friends were. Such dynamic, patriotic people, extremely patriotic. Once some people told us that they are transferring the political prisoners to another place far away. So they are on the platform. So we all rushed to the platform to see them. There was one sage, supposed to be, and he was the one who was regarded as a very great, honorable person. He called me and he said, "What are you doing? Why are you taking part in 1942 movement? Why don't you look after your mother? Your mother is so much worried." This and that. He gave me a big lecture. Of course, 1942 was a real ordeal for any young girl. They put me on the ice and gave me electric shocks, did all kinds. That to me it didn't matter. So my father called me on one side. He said, "How dare this old man tell you all this nonsense? I am so very proud of you. I hope all my children become like you and kill themselves for the country." And then he shouted at my mother, "You are a daughter of such and such, of such a family. How dare you write letters like that? What do you mean by this?" That was my father. I was a very young person, about 17, 18, 19. He said, "Go ahead, I'm all with you." And that has given me the lesson that if you have complete purity about your dedication and purity about what you have to do, you can achieve. And as Gandhiji had said, we have to have first freedom. I saw the Union Jack coming down and I saw the tricolour going up. That was the moment. It's beyond me. Even now, I remember those days. Many of you who are Indians here may not have seen those days. That's why you're so careless. That's why some of you do not understand out of what sacrifices this freedom we have got. It's not an easy freedom. It was a very, very difficult one. And Shastri ji was one of them who gave up everything to join. And he had a mother to look after. He was another one who just gave up all those things. Any young man would have ambitions, do this, do that, nothing. He gave up everything just to join Congress. Those were the days where people were charmed with it. It's just Gandhiji was also a very short man. This gentleman had really charmed all the young people. So many young people gave up their studies, gave up everything, not for something wrong, but to fight for your country. And they sacrificed their lives. So many of them. They're extremely honest, pure, but the love for your country itself made them so beautiful, I think. We were young girls, there were young boys, there were old men, old women. We never had any such thing which we call as corruption or any kind of bad feelings. We're all working together day and night. I mean, I have had some very bad experiences of these, that we have to stay in jungles and do all this thing. Only if somebody writes my biography, it may be there, you might see all those things. But in the main life of these great people is there pure love for their country, pure love for their country. There's a difference between love for your country. Pure love means you just love your country for the country's sake. Not because you can make money, get into positions, higher positions you'll have, all this, not for that. Just purely, very purely, just an inner, innate dharma to love your country. In the same way, all of you should love your country, but with the view that we all will have one word one day. It's important that if any country is not equipped with that love for their own, they will be like a cancer if they join one world. Impossible. So the pure love for your country is so good. Now I find it, Sir Yogis, once they are transformed, immediately they start seeing what's wrong with their country. It's not attachment, it is not infatuation, it is not blind faith, but they see, like Paul Ellis told you about America, every one of them, I know every one of them. Nigel will tell you about UK. They see immediately what's wrong with their country and they will not be patriotic in the sense that they will condemn other countries and praise their own country. I think this is the essential thing that we should see, what's wrong with our country. If you have love, say if you love your child, then you must know what's wrong with that child. Also, you should love the child and also say that this is what is wrong with the child. Otherwise you don't love, it's possession, it's infatuation, you can call it a conditioning. In the same way I've seen everybody now, as Professor Saab from Russia also told me how many things are wrong in Russia. Everyone tells me, this is wrong, mother, put your attention. Please try to save. I went to Tunisia, they said, mother, please put your attention onto Tunisia. This is wrong with this. Turkey, this is wrong. It's very surprising how with this subtle opening of your awareness, now you see what is wrong, what is injurious, whatever is destructive for your country, and you want to improve. Same with Lal Bahadur Shastri. He asked me several times, how to improve the food conditions of people. Now you know with Sahaja Yoga you can. I couldn't tell him about Sahaja Yoga, but I did say there is a divine method by which it can be done. But agriculture should be without income tax and maximum importance must be given to agriculture. Till today it is there. Otherwise also he asked me about various things, even about Kashmir. So I told him that the biggest mistake was to make a separate constitution. By that, you just give a gap to them. Just give them a gap, and that's why the problem is there. His, you see, whole attention was so holistic, I would say. And he would always see how we can create beautiful relationship between people of different races, different religions, different ideologies. And he had a knack of it. He had a knack. I think he must be raising their Kundalini perhaps. But he had a knack. That CPS said is true. He could transform a person into something. His style was so collective, that in the garden he would stand there. And everybody who comes there, he would meet. He had a tremendous memory. I too have. So I used to wonder, there's another one I found out who has such a tremendous memory. Because to me it is sometimes embarrassing to have such a memory. But to him it was such a blessing, I should say, for people, because he would ask them for such small things. How is your mother now? Or how did you get to your house? See, so much subtle it was. Like I told you, the motherly type of it. Of course, he has been extremely kind to me, except that he didn't take me to Tashkent. He was to take me. Things would have been different, but it is all fated, you know. Can't help it. And once I did tell him that you should little bit take rest also, do little meditation. We have no time. He said it's better to shine like a shooting star. I said shooting stars are those which are no good as stars. But you are so important, you have no idea as to how important you are. And if you realize how important you are, you will look after yourself. He used to live in the last part of the house, so humble, so very humble. Whatever you gave him, he would eat. His ordinary, what you call, khatia in our language, he used to sleep on that. I said, why are you such a saint? Why can't you sleep on a proper bed? After all, we need you. For our sake, we have to do it. So, he would say, I feel more comfortable in this. See, he's just a man who is so detached. He was going to Russia, and they all felt that the coat he is wearing is not sufficient for Russia, must change. So they told me, I said, you better tell him, I won't be able to talk to him. So they approached CP. They said, CP told him that, sir, don't you think we should make another coat for you? He said, so they have come to you now. He said, whatever it is, but I think we have to make a coat for him. To make one coat for him was impossible. He never carried any money. He'll be surprised. And he didn't know what were the new coins are. So at the airport I would always be there, you see, he would tell me. So he said, this lady is coming to me to put that peace flag on me. I have no money, what to do? So I said, all right, I'll give her something. So I gave her 1 rupee. She said, you have no coin? I said, the coin is for 10p. What is that? He said, I said, it is 1/10 of a rupee nowadays. Oh, I see. It's better than you give her a note. But he wanted to give her a coin as an auspicious thing. So detached about things, so much. At the same time, he was so diligently working out, because the way he used to ask me questions, I was surprised. I was surprised how diligently and subtly he wanted to improve the thing. He said that, what should we do? I said, first of all, we must have water. I know that. We must have water in every village. Gandhiji always used to say, he told his wife that you go to the well and bring the water to me. I told her one day, Ma, let me do it. Why are you doing it? So now, this my husband will give me. Very angry, he has told me. till every village gets water, you fill in the water for me and bring it. So I'll remember that we have to supply water. Shastriji was very much on that. Also he said that these people who travel by third class, there's no fan, nothing. He put fans. He put fans in the third class waiting rooms. He started, you can say he was a communist in a way, because he was a capitalist. He was so full of love and so full of patriotism that his love would not allow him to see people suffer. So whatever he could do, he tried to do. He was really only for 18 months he lived. And like a shooting star, as he said. And there are so many things one can talk about it, which CP has kindly put it in his book also. I know I put him onto an oath that he has to write this book. Because he has written files after files up to here and there, of no use. I said, what's the use of all these files? You have to write one book on Shastri. And I've been always insisting on him for helping Shastriji because I knew what he was. I had the image of a man who would do such revolution in this country and bring down people to higher values in, not money business, no, to the higher values. Because he was an evolved soul, himself a detached man, and what a caliber of intelligence he had. Normally if you talk to any minister, I know so many of them, at the most they might speak good English, because you see we are very slavish people. If you don't know how to speak good English, means we are the worst. See, you must speak good English. If you don't know Hindi, all right. But English you must know. They are still like that. I know so many ministers who knew very good English, great speakers, but not a word about India.